In December 2011, Farming Smarter held its annual conference and trade show at the Lethbridge Lodge Hotel, bringing together over 250 agricultural professionals and over 20 speakers. The conference served to educate members of the farming community on growing trends, opportunities, and issues facing today's agricultural industry. We now take you to the Farming Smarter conference to view the presentation of our speakers.
Well, thank you very much. It's certainly a pleasure to be here today. Sometimes it feels like we were making more money when we had 25 head than we did at the 36,000 head. In the commodity business, seems like we're at the end of a pendulum, and I think right now we're on the swing of the pendulum where everybody in agriculture is feeling pretty good and pretty bullish about themselves. Certainly margins are extremely tight, and although we are seeing really high values for our commodities, the risk level is higher than ever. And I'll just happily talk a little bit about our story and what we've done over the past 30 years at our operation and where we're going. Our roots have certainly been in the mixed farming business. My brother and myself kind of started getting involved in our father's farm in the mid to late 70s, and our father started to retire about 1983, and I think that was kind of when we bought our first feeder cattle. So anyways, in 1980 we were really pumping up the grain farming operation because we had some high commodity prices in the late 70s, and they told us the world is hungry, we can't supply enough food, and just grow that grain. So we always were born with a purebred Hereford operation, so we kind of had that in our blood. But our real focus in the late 70s was getting that grain farm expanded to a viable operation. 1982, 83 hit, interest went through the roof, and our commodities were kind of going in the other direction, so we really had to make some quick adjustments there and to keep ourselves viable, and we were looking for all kinds of alternatives to do with our grain production. And we had a couple of tough falls, and we ended up putting some barley into bags, and we didn't have enough cattle ourselves, so we bought 50 head of feeder cattle in 1983, and that was really the genesis of us starting to feed cattle. We figured out how to get partnerships at an early stage. I think one of the cattle buyers that we started with says, well, if you buy 100, I'll buy 100, and we'll put them in a pen at your place and use up that cheap, tough barley, and that's really how we got things going. So as we went forward, we always custom fed some cattle, but we always owned some cattle ourselves, and so in 1986 we sold our registered Hereford cattle, and that was a kind of business that was hard to grow. It was a great business, but we couldn't see much growth opportunity. And my brother and I were young, aggressive guys, and we wanted to make as much money as we could, and took a lot of pride in seeing things grow. So sold our combine, sold our grain dryer, sold the cows, and at that point, I think we were at about 5,000 head. So we spent our summers building pens, our falls processing cattle, fit a little bit of silaging in between, but we really at that point weren't grain farmers anymore. So we got specialized again. We went from a diversified grain farm, mixed farm, to kind of focusing on specialized grain, then getting back into the cattle business. So either way you go about developing your operation, some people just stay on the same path, and some people follow trends, and you end up going through cycles. I think they're about a 10-year cycle, but at the end of the day, I think we all end up good as long as you're good operators, good managers. So a little bit about the specialized feedlot operation. Currently, we're at a 36,000 head capacity. Some years we've been as high as 40,000 head in the feedlot, but we do try and stay at an average of around 32,000 head in the feedlot. We'll market about 50 to 70,000 head of finished slaughtered cattle every year, and we sell mainly to the two major packers in Alberta. A few cattle might go across the line, but primarily the Brooks and High River plants take all of our cattle. Again, we average around 50% custom feed, but that'll swing a little bit depending on the time of year and depending on what the mood is for investment in owning cattle. We employ about 45 people, and we still consider ourselves a family farm. My brother Bern and myself either one of us are at the feedlot every day, except for today. But very engaged in the operations, and but at the same time, we do have a very qualified staff. Our longest employed people are in that 18-year area, so some good dedicated people with us, and that allows both Bern and myself to do some special projects, which I'll start to focus on a bit more as we go. Spring Creek Ranch Natural Beef is a project that we started about 10 years ago, pre-BSC, and we knew that there was an opportunity in a branded beef product, but that required some real differentiation in the marketplace, and so we had our greatest success actually south of the border, because the consumers and food service industry was willing to pay a premium for a different kind of product. When BSC hit, that really ended the program because we had no marketing in Canada. So we almost basically had to rebuild the brand starting after that. And I think the first couple of years post BSC, the feedlot industry was pretty much scrambling and doing whatever it could to survive. Those ended up being, we got through that era okay, but it certainly interrupted anything like the development of brands. Today, it's a thriving and growing program. We have about 2,000 to 3,000 head of cattle on that Spring Creek Natural program on feed all the time. It is a CFIA approved and monitored program. CFIA is Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So it's not just a brand that we stuck a label on it. It does have very rigid criteria. The primary differentiation is that any cattle that qualify cannot have had any antibiotic or hormones added to their production throughout the life of that animal. So it takes relationship building all the way back to the primary producer. And the text on the screen there is right off of the Spring Creek Ranch website, and that is really kind of the basis of what the cow-calf producers have to be able to provide us to qualify. We do pay a premium for those feeder cattle. They do receive a premium right at the purchase times of the calves, so it's not some value that we try to carry forward. It was a real tough program to establish and make it functional, operational, and but over the last 4 years, been very successful. And this last summer, we've announced a joint venture with Nielsen Brothers and XL Packers at Lakeside, at Brooks. They're taking the product national, and they're actually procuring the cattle now through their network of buyers. And it's an exclusive relationship between XL and Highland Feeders. So we have cattle in the pipeline to actually have about an average of 10,000 head on feed through the next year. And ultimately, we see about 80% of our feedlot production being the natural beef production. So there are certainly higher costs in that production side, but it has been very well accepted across the food retail and food service industry. You'll see Spring Creek Ranch in many high-end restaurants. Fairmonts, particularly across Canada, carry that product, and so it's been one of the few successful brands in Canada. U.S. has had some great success in this program, and we hope to have that role. So it's becoming a very big part of our operation. On the renewable energy side, that's more my focus. My brother Bern and his daughter Kirsten, they've been moving the Spring Creek Ranch branded beef program forward, and I get the shit end of the stick, I guess. So I'm in the converting manure to power. My brother jokes that he spent his first 20 years in the industry turning money into shit, and now it's my turn to for the next 20 years to reverse that responsibility. But anyways, back in the mid-'90s when we were doing some major expansions and everything was gung-ho, the provincial government was talking about how much pork and beef we're going to be exporting around the world, and we need more feedlots, need more hog operations, but everything has to have a balance to it. So the social and environmental balance to this growth was saying, well, we have to do this sustainably. We need tighter regulations and monitoring on nutrient management, impact. So that was a big issue. I was highly involved with some industry associations through that period, and that was really what was holding back growth. And holding back's not the right word. It's something that every industry needs to do. You need to be sustainable moving forward. So we knew that manure was a big issue, and we were looking at technologies that were going to help mitigate some of these environmental and social issues. Went, searched the globe, basically looked at a bunch of different ways to process and handle manure, and got involved in some research programs with the Alberta government at that time. And around 2000, the renewable energy thing was really taking off in Europe, and anaerobic digestion was a solution that particularly in Germany, they were implementing into their agricultural operations. Europe has a very different economic and agricultural scenario there. They had very high subsidies. Their farms are small. They're very much intermingled with the communities and towns, and so they were able to develop small biogas operations that provided energy. They were cooperatives with several small farms, but economically they were able to make these small operations work. We didn't have that in North America, certainly not in Canada. Our operations were very, very large. Not exaggerating, we were 100 to 1,000 times larger than many European operations that could implement renewable energy. So we started trying to figure out a way that how are we going to handle this massive quantity of manure. Very difficult in nature. It's dirty. It's inconsistent. The Europeans basically threw their hands up in the air when we tried to get them to help us develop some systems. But we founded a company called Highmark Renewables, began an R&D process, and by February 2005, had our first 1 megawatt plant in operation. At that time, it's a pilot scale plant in North American standards, but that was the largest manure biogas plant in the world. So it gives you an idea of the different scale that we have to deal with here. Anyways, fun times. The first 2 years spent as much time repairing and changing equipment configuration as we did actually generating energy, but I guess that's the way it goes when you're trying to figure out how to do something nobody else has done before. For the essence of time, I'll jump ahead here. We always knew that biofuels integration was going to be an important step in not only improving the manure to energy technologies, but also improving feedlot viability. Over the past 6 years or so, we've seen quite an impact on feed grain dynamics, who can pay more for it and where things move. And I think as an industry or a focused industry, you can take a position where you're an island and We don't want anything external forces impacting our little industry, but Bern and I have realized a long time ago that that is not reality. People may argue that some of the fundamentals of grain ethanol production are not good. However, it is a mainstream established industry globally. It is using about 3% of the grains globally. This is the whole biofuel industry, so it gets a bad rap, although it also provides a huge opportunity for grain producers and livestock producers if they approach it in a manner that it benefits their industry. So been very focused on that over the last 5 years of working out how these efficiencies play out, and the net result is that in an integrated plant you can greatly enhance the net energy production of ethanol. Conservatively, it's 4-to-1 on the net energy balance. You read some publications that say it's a negative on the net energy balance. That is a fallacy. Corn ethanol is about 1.6-to-1, which is better than traditional fuel or carbon or fossil fuel production. So, don't let some of these headlines sway you that way. So if it's done properly, efficiently, it is very efficient. When we integrate biofuels with the anaerobic digestion and a co-located feedlot, the ethanol plant comes completely off the grid. It will not purchase any electricity or natural gas, and that is the largest incremental increase in that net energy benefit. If you don't have to dry the distiller's grains, you save 30% of the energy load in an ethanol plant, about 15% of the capital cost, and about 20% of the operational requirement, manpower, and just repairs and maintenance. It's a very tough part of the ethanol plant to manage is the grain, the distiller's grain drying. So there is a huge opportunity for ethanol plants if they're co-located where there is a lot of feed demand that can take that product wet. If you look in Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, Texas, most of those feed or ethanol plants do not dry any of their distiller's grains. Their dryers are sitting idle. The feedlots are either having that wet product delivered or they pick it up. They can buy that feed at a discount because it is such a savings for the ethanol plant, and that is a benefit to the feeding industry, and it is also a great benefit to the ethanol industry. Feedlots, we're obviously benefiting from the lower cost, very high quality feed, but we're also seeing in Alberta for sure, we're seeing competition on our barley acreage. And as wheat and canola have jumped in value and market access, farmers are growing more of those commodities and less of barley. So the feeding industry is having to look for competitive feedstocks. And if we go back to the start of the feeding industry in North America, down in the U.S. basically, it was based on byproducts, and same in any other parts of the world. The very successful feedlots are all using byproducts as a significant part of their feed rations. And cattle are uniquely engineered by Mother Nature to handle a wide variety and quality of feedstocks. And this has to be an opportunity that livestock or beef producers look at. Whether you're cow-calf or feedlot, we need to lower costs of our productions and not be targeting high-quality starch products to grow, to basically put fat on these animals. So we think it's going to be a growing trend in the feedlot industry is going back to byproducts. And in Alberta, we haven't really had that. We've had low-cost feed grains, and that's that is changing. So we wrap that all together, and we talk about it closing the loop for our feedlot operation. That We are now going back into some grain production. Our 7,000 acre land base, this last year we grew 4,000 acres of canola. We had an opportunity to forward price all of that production. And so when we look at the agronomics of the whole operation, we need flexibility, and that to do that, we have to get diversified again. We've found that we don't need to feed high percentages of silage to the cattle to get performance and conversion. We use residue straw as the roughage part of the ration, so we've greatly reduced the amount of silage because there are some alternative high-value commodities that we can grow on our land. The feedlot still benefits because we have a place to put manure, and also we are getting the feed, lower cost feeds because of the grain operation, and that will be enhanced with the construction of the ethanol plant, which will be complete September 2012. We are pouring. I think I get into that a little later here, but so anyways. The renewable energy has really helped us in marketing and differentiating the natural beef product. We do use it in our marketing that the manure and the byproducts are used to produce renewable energy, and that all enhances the customer acceptance of the branded beef product. Certainly, the renewable energy. In converting that manure to energy, we still retain all of the nutrients, and which go back to our land base, and there are also a lot of value-added opportunities on that nutrient that comes back out of the biogas plant. Here's a schematic that we use in any of our publications, and it's also on our website, but it does show the cartoon caricature of the integration. Basically our outputs are low carbon ethanol, high quality beef, biofertilizers that either go back onto our own land or are sold as a value added product. But we also export electricity. So we're increasing all of the values of things that are byproducts and cost and have other potential liabilities for the feedlot operation. How am I doing for time? Great. So a little bit more, just to get into some more specifics on the renewable energy part. You're looking at the biogas portion of the whole system. The company is called Growing Power Harry Hill. Bern and I are still the majority owners, but obviously we've had to bring in some other investment, and many of those are actual local grain producers that are also shareholders in the project. But what you're looking at here is the biogas portion of the plant. The large white building on the left of the screen is the manure receiving building. The feedlot delivers manure there by truck. We have end dumps at the feedlot. So the feedlot loads the manure and hauls it to the plant. It is a significant cost savings to us on the feedlot side versus hauling it out to the land and spreading it in its raw form. There also are the non-monetary benefits of reducing the road traffic significantly, reducing the odor of spreading, and potentially reducing the soil over-nutrification. So those are some of the benefits to the feedlot side. The plant today can handle about 275 tons per day. So about 220 tons are actual manure from the feedlot, and kind of 40 to 60 tons is waste coming from other industries. We do take slaughterhouse waste from the Ole Mill hog plant in Red Deer, and that product was either composted or landfilled before, and we were able to save them a tremendous amount of cost. And also, on the other side of the equation, we convert that into energy. It's very high in its energy potential in converting to methane gas. The key with that product is that it's high in nitrogen, and the oils and grease in there don't digest well on their own. They need a carbon source. So the feedlot manure is the high carbon source. And because we have the manure in such great quantities, we can add a lot of other products that are very difficult or impossible to digest on their own, and create a recipe that is more productive. It's more productive than the manure would be on its own, and significantly more productive or valuable than those waste products are to the slaughter industry. So that's where this whole integration opportunity really starts to spin off numbers for the industry as a whole. Anytime we can reduce costs for processors, that makes them more competitive in buying their raw commodities. The same will happen in the beef slaughter plants. There are packing plants in the U.S. Cargill has recently announced a gasification project where they're converting their biomass. So all of these bigger industries that are food processing in nature are looking at ways to add value to that material and reduce cost and environmental impact. And that's where feedlots, primarily in Alberta, have an important role to play, because we have this large source of high carbon manure that also has its own set of issues. So right now the plant produces 2.5 megawatts of electricity, and with I'll flip a slide here. With the completion of the ethanol plant, we will be finishing up the second large digester, and that'll basically double the methane gas production. But all of that methane gas will go to feed the boiler for the ethanol plant versus producing electricity and selling it onto the grid. There are also several other very important heat integration points between the ethanol plant, the biogas, and the feedlot that do things like reduce the cooling load of an ethanol plant. Ethanol plants produce a huge amount of waste heat, and one of their largest energy costs is actually in dispersing that heat. 60 or 70% of their water consumption is consumed in evaporative cooling towers to cool off the fermentation process, which produces heat as an exothermic process. So the feedlot and the biogas plant act as heat sinks. We're taking feedlot drinking water, passing it through the ethanol plant, and picking up about 20 degrees. Our well water comes in at about 5 degrees Celsius, and it'll come out at about 25 degrees C for the cattle. We know that there's going to be a metabolic benefit to the cattle. Basically, they'll be drinking tea, and I drink tea all the time. I hardly drink plain water anymore. So we're starting some projects to measure what that metabolic benefit is on the cattle side, but we can improve the efficiency on the cattle by warming that water, improve the efficiency on the ethanol plant by cooling their plant. And the same goes with the anaerobic digestion system. Anaerobic digestion requires heat, and our existing plant, we recover heat from the cogen, so we don't have to purchase any external energy. But the biogas plant produces high quality energy, whether it's electricity or natural gas that can be used for steam. So rather than using its own heat for its own process, that high quality energy goes to the ethanol plant in the form of, biogas and electricity, but it takes low grade heat from the ethanol plant to warm its process. So those are how all these efficiencies of the integration really start to kick in. When the ethanol plant is done, we'll be using about 110,000 ton annually. Soft white wheat is a target. It's very encouraging to hear the prospects of a wheat commission. We think that is the essence of moving your industry ahead. You need organized organize development plans and funding to do that. And we think that high starch wheats have a great opportunity. They're less risky to grow in the prairie provinces and will be an essential feedstock for a healthy integrated ethanol industry. Many of our investors, the majority, are actually farmers within about a 60-mile radius, and they do have producer delivery contracts, so they have delivery rights, and they will get a premium because they have equity in the ethanol plant. So it's a way to kind of get participation from everyone in the region, and you know, it gives the farmers some options and flexibility, and it also improves the efficiency of the feedlot and viability. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. A little bit on back on the manure side. It is a difficult product to handle, and that's why most global anaerobic digestion technologies have not touched the feedlot industry. When we manage our pens the way we do to integrate with this plant, we're cleaning on a much more routine basis, and our pens they stay very, very clean. We're able to minimize maintenance in the pens instead of letting the base break down and get mucked through. So there are synergistic benefits for both operations by managing things differently. There is some evolution in management that needs to happen to be efficient, but those are very doable. The feedlots have been receptive. We're working with a very large plant, ethanol plant in Kansas. I think it just hit a press release yesterday, as a matter of fact, but it's a 50 million gallon plant that is using Highmark's manure technology to convert local feedlot manure into energy. Yeah, we can handle high volumes of high solids manure, and that's something that's being recognized globally. So again, we're having global penetration because of these abilities. We recover sand out of the digesters, and we use this back in the feedlot, and that's a very unique part of the technology that dirty manure fills up any other digesters with dirt, and it's something that we've learned how to overcome and design our system to get around. I'm running out of time, so I'm flipping through fast. But another recycling thing that we're unique in doing here provincially is where there's livestock, there's dead stock, and our postmortems, or we call them PMs, but they're dead stocks that we do perform postmortems on at the feedlot. We recover the hides off of them, we dehide them. We have a processing system that basically grinds up that carcass, and it's fed into the digesters. The net swing versus having a renderer come and pick those dead animals up is about $130 per animal. So it's very significant. We believe it's an environmentally sustainable way to deal with these animals, and we think it'll be more widely adopted across North America. The outputs, we produce biofertilizers that are odorless, they're pathogen-free, about 20% of the volume, so they're concentrated in nutrients, and that reduces the cost of getting that nutrient back out to the land and allows us to get it onto a much wider land base. We recover the water out of this system, and we use it as a nutrient irrigation water. We are working on nutrient recovery processes, and when fertilizer is kind of $1,200, $1,500 a ton, which we're almost getting back into that range, it is economically viable to concentrate those nutrients, and so that's something that's coming down the road. Of course, electricity and biofuels will be a very important output, and back to our core business, the high quality beef. Sometimes we joke that the beef might be the byproduct of that whole integrated operation, but we certainly invite you to come out and visit the plant. There's many challenges here. You can maybe take a look. I'm out of time here, but you got to stay focused on your core business. You got to mitigate risk and partner up with people to help you take on these kind of initiatives. Can't do it all on your own. And if you want to visit us at the Feedlot or one of these websites to get some more information, please do. We entertain having visitors, and we think it's a great opportunity for agriculture as a whole. Thank you very much.